Hey folks, Brady Frank here, author of the book Transition Time, and you've probably seen some articles I've written in a trade journal or two, Dental Economics and others. We are talking about dental climate change today. Basically, corporate dentistry's effect on today's dental practice from the first module in Transition Time. So obviously, big groups are getting bigger. And what has happened, it has taken the private practitioner's income and it has plateaued. It has not increased like it did in the 90s and the 2000s. So what are we to do about it? And what is the ultra successful 1% doing about it? So I work with many dozens of these private groups around the US that are crushing it, and they're doing specific things that set them up for success in spite of the corporate groups. That's what this book is about, taking the secrets of the ultra successful 1% of private practitioners who are growing by leaps and bounds in spite of corporate groups. Am I against corporate groups? No, I'm not. I've worked with most of the big DSOs out there, both clinically from an implant standpoint and from a consulting relationship. So the good news is the stuff that they use, the business strategies that the DSOs use, can be metamorphosized to the private practitioner, and the private practitioner can use these strategies too. I have found that the general dentist has a leg up, or the specialist has a leg up on the corporate groups. They just need the information. And so, Module 1 in the book gives a bunch of the information which we're going to go over as quickly as we can right now. So, a lot of the corporate groups focus on acquiring very expensive practices. They'll buy a practice for $2 million, $4 million. And so, if you understand the transition life cycle, or the practice life cycle, you have a huge advantage to these corporate groups. Even if you're solo right now, your next practice, your investment practice, if you understand this practice life cycle, it can put you miles ahead of the investment side of dental practices. So, startup phase, growth phase, plateau phase. What we're going to focus on is the regressive phase. So, right now we have a huge boom of dentists retiring. I call it a double whammy boom of dentists retiring. Why is that? The baby boomers' time to retire was about 8 or 9 years ago, 10 years ago, when our country was in the midst of the worst recession of the last 100 years, many claim. They lost a lot of money in the stock market. Many of them pulled the money out and kind of locked in their losses. They waited until this last economic boom that we're in right now to retire. Additionally, those older baby boomers are now prime to retire. So what I've noticed is we have a huge glut of selling dentists, and these selling dentists, once their financial advisor says, hey, you have enough money to retire, they start to kind of treat their practice like a country club practice, right? And they cut back from 4 to 3 days a week. The revenues decrease, and what happens next is the banks will not finance a young doc going in. The banks go off of the financials that are, not what could be, right? So these practices can be purchased for 50 cents on the dollar, 30 cents on the dollar, seller financing, all this good stuff, and all that is wrong with them is simply a dentist that doesn't care that much anymore and is treating it like a country club. You just put fresh blood in there, a new dentist in there, and that practice goes back into growth phase and all that stuff. So around the country, I'd say there's probably about 3,800 of these books that have been read, and right now many practices, hundreds of them, are really enjoying the fruits of increased knowledge regarding the practice life cycle and transitions as it relates to investing in dentistry, investing in yourself. So the first module goes into the major things that the corporate groups are doing to crush it, and basically reverse engineers those tactics to put into your pocket. So doing a short video series to kind of get people some information on certain modules. That was a little teaser, if you will, for Module 1. If you'd like the book, my deal is this. You can have it. You just pay shipping and handling, and you can have the book. Just go to transitiontimebook.com and fill it out. Grab one today, and if you just want to keep listening to these little short videos, we are doing Module 2 next time to further elaborate on these concepts. Have a great one.